You froze. Okay. Are we good?
We're live.
Hi, everybody. I am Kathy from Sagmaray Native Plant Community, and Lexi is here with me tonight. Good evening, Lexi. It's wonderful to see you.
Good evening, everyone. We're excited to be here.
And tonight we are going to present a short presentation of beautiful native plants that repel rabbits and rodents. Meet our native mints. If you have, you know, we're all we love our rodents. Well, they're all part of our ecosystem. We love our bunnies, we love our rabbits. They are a vital component in our ecosystem and very important in the food chain. But I realize that they can be a real problem when people are trying to garden and plant native and create ecosystem in their backyard. They're creating ecosystem for the birds. For the birds and the pollinators, but the rabbits come and eat it all. So that can be a problem, especially if you are in an area that has an excessive amount. If you have a normal suburban amount of, who are some of our rodents? Obviously field mice, but more commonly chipmunks or voles. If you have a normal population, if you plant a good, healthy garden, there's going to be a little bit for them to eat and a lot left for you to look at and for the bees and the butterflies to take advantage of. But some places have, truly an excessive amount. And so it's very hard to grow anything. Things just really get mowed down. And I don't know if you agree with me, Lexi, but I think this is one of the questions that we are most commonly asked is, what do I do about rabbits? How do I prevent rabbits from eating everything or rodents from eating everything? And that's why we wanted to talk about some great choices tonight about some plants that not only do they not really like to eat, but it can actually repel them from your garden and from your area. That being said, I do want to say that if a rabbit is starving, they could eat just about everything. But if they're a normal rabbit and they're not starving, they are going to avoid these plants. And as I said, they will actually avoid your garden if there's a lot of these plants in there, as will rodents. And we've always heard that you can put peppermint oil out or different types of oils to help repel rodents, and they're actually allergic to the smell of mints. But we have a lot of beautiful native mints that are wonderful for our pollinators and wonderful for our ecosystem, and those will work for us as well. So that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Before we get really on a roll and I turn this over to Lexi for a little bit, just want to ask you, please, if you like Sagmarain's content, please subscribe so that you know when we have a new video or a new live stream. And I also, we love reading your comments and we love hearing what you have to say or what questions you have or what comments you have about what we're talking about. And we'd also, so please put that in the chat. We read everything. And also we'd love it if you put in the chat where you're from, what state are you in, what city are you in, because we'd love to know what parts of the country are watching our videos and using the information that we provide. So please, please put information in the chat. We'd love to learn more about you as well.
All right, so let's get into the plants, our favorite parts. So the plants in the mint family tend to be less popular with rabbits and rodents. In fact, they can repel them. So like Kathy said, that if you've got a starving rabbit in your yard, it could eat almost anything. We've had so many stories of people who brought home plants from a plant sale and they just get devoured by the rabbits. So we want to think about plants that are going to really repel them and make sure that they're planted in places, especially around like foundation walls or next to the house. If you're worried about, these rodents getting into your home, then this might be a good way to repel them as well. So we're thinking about, the longevity of our plants in the garden, making sure they don't get mowed down, and then also repelling them from coming inside. Rabbits are pretty interesting. Like, they even ate some of my orange milkweed this summer. I couldn't believe it. That's one plant that they're not supposed to eat. But yeah, just the mint family alone, it's really great because it can fill in pretty quickly and can act as this natural barrier, a natural pesticide, or not, I'm sorry, not a pesticide, a natural barrier for the rodents, to not be where you don't want them to be. And another thing that I just want to mention is that a lot of people put out traps for rodents and rabbits, but anytime we're putting out these, chemicals into our yard and these poisons, they affect the food chain. So a rabbit might go into a mouse trap and get the food, a small rabbit. All the rodents that are then, the owls will eat those rodents. That gets into their systems and it affects them and can actually kill them. So, trying out these natural remedies as a way to repel the rodents and the creatures that you don't want in your home or right next to your home is a much more effective and great tool instead of using all those poisons.
Absolutely, great point.
All right, so what are we talking about tonight? We are talking about 8 different plants in the mint family. So we're going to start with a couple of different species of Monarda. So the first one is wild bergamot. It's also known as bee balm. The next one is spotted bee balm, Monarda punctata. Bradbury's Monarda, it's a little bit shorter of a Monarda, a little bit more of an exotic looking flower. Red bee balm, Monarda didyma, which is also my background tonight. Obedient plant, which is a really gorgeous plant. Again, this one spreads pretty quickly. We had this in our native ground covers webinar as well. Then we've got slender mountain mint, another version of mountain mint, and then lavender hyssop. And one of the things that all of these have in common is that the smell is just amazing. And when you have a big swath of bergamot, the smell that you get just from the leaves and the flowers alone is just so beautiful. So any of these, they're going to smell good and also do the trick for repelling the rodents.
And I'm just looking at them and I'm thinking, man, these are going to repel rodents, repel rabbits, have a much less likelihood of being eaten by any of them. And these are some of the favorite plants of our pollinating native bees, our pollinating native butterflies, and hummingbirds. These are some of the real powerhouse favorites of them.
Yes, so we're getting 2 things with one. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And the birds. The birds love a lot of these as well. So, okay, the first one is the most common Monarda, which is wild bergamot or Monarda fistulosa. And here you can see a hummingbird clearwing moth feeding from the nectar of Monarda. And that is actually a diurnal daytime moth, but it is a moth, but it's one of the few moths that fly during the day. And it kind of looks like a cross between a hummingbird and a moth. And wild bergamot grows up to 4 feet tall in full to part sun, moist to dry soil, and it blooms July, August, September. It truly is a pollinator magnet. When this thing is blooming in the garden, everybody is there, and I see so many species of bees on this, bumblebees and so on, that I don't see other than when this is blooming. So this is just amazing. The pollinators that are drawn to this, and hummingbirds and so on. It's hardy in zones 3 to 9, and it is native to the eastern, central, and southwestern U.S. So let's take a look at our BONAP map that we look at that. So that is a huge native range.
This is impressive.
This is very impressive. And so this Monarda, like we said in the bed, it gets a little bit taller. It gets to be about 4 feet tall, and it does like a lot of sun. This one, like I said, it does get tall, and it can be prone to powdery mildew after it's done blooming. One of the ways that you can help to prevent that is to try to water it at the ground level. Don't be watering the leaves or actually water it in the morning. So things like that can help prevent it. So it can be prone to that, and some of the other species of Monarda that we're going to be talking about are a little less prone to that. However, it's so beautiful for so long that even if you cut it back after it's done blooming, or even if it does get some powdery mildew, it is just well worth having in your garden anyway. It's just amazing, and I can't describe how the pollinators love it, and the reason we're here tonight, the rodents and rabbits do not. And if all you have to do is have some and touch it or rub it, and you can smell the mint.
And now the powdery mildew, like even if it gets the powdery mildew on the leaves, it still can bloom, right? Like
Absolutely.
so it's just a little bit of a discoloration on the leaves, and it's nothing to really freak out about. More moisture
And
area.
usually in my experience, it doesn't really get that powdery mildew until it's pretty much done blooming.
Yeah.
So then if you don't like the look of it, you could always like cut it way back if you want to, because it's done blooming. I usually don't, because I want to get some seeds from it, but you could cut it back at that time. And I've had years where I don't get any powdery mildew on it, so it all depends on what kind of a summer we have, how, the weather conditions, whatever, makes it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it usually, to me, it's always happened after the majority of the flowering is done.
Yeah, and at least it doesn't stop that beautiful flowering from happening.
Right. Very hardy plant, really, easy to get going, easy to plant and get going.
Yeah, I think with all the Monardas, they're super easy to grow. They're easy to grow from seed too, so you could start growing them and get them going in your garden like very quickly. This one is another exotic, beautiful version. This is spotted bee balm. I think this is also dotted mint, and I think there's another name for it too.
Is this the one that's also called horse mint?
Horse mint, that's right. So yeah, a lot of these native plants have multiple names. So, whatever's in your area, maybe there's some folklore with a different kind of name for this particular plant. But look at how cool this one is. It looks like something tropical. It grows to 2 feet tall, so it's a little bit shorter than the last Monarda that we looked at. Again, it likes full to part sun. This one likes medium to dry soil. I think a little bit on the sandier side for the spotted bee balm. And then this blooms July, August, and September as well. And this is hardy in zones 3 to 9 and native to parts of the Midwest, southeastern, and south central U.S. So our map is going to be a little bit spottier, just like the spotted bee balm. But again, this is a pollinator magnet and will also help repel those rodents.
I did want to mention with this, so I planted some of this for the first time just, a few weeks ago in June, after our plant sale. And it's still like little tiny, I mean, it's just went in a few weeks ago, and it's already got little baby flowers on it. Like, how cool is that to be so tiny and already flowering? So I'm already in love with this plant. And I have it, I have it on the south side of my house between the brick and the driveway, and it seems to be really just really taking to that area, because again, it likes the full sun, it likes it drier. The soil is drier there, so it's probably a little bit more crumbly, not like real like wet clay. So it seems to be taking well to that area. And because it is a much shorter Monarda, only getting to 2 feet tall, a native landscaper that we know well has said, two of them actually have both, confirmed that in their experience, it is much less prone to powdery mildew. And they don't know if it's the height difference or if it's just the species, but much less prone to that.
All right, and take a look at this map. So again, a little bit spotty, kind of interesting the areas that it's chosen to be native in. But yeah, if you're in any of these areas with the bright green, that's where it's native to, all the way in Florida too. Look at that.
Look at that.
But then all the way up in the northern part of Wisconsin and Michigan, and we've got a couple yellow spots in there. So that's where it's not very widely spread. So a great plant to plant if you're there. And this one, I think along with the last one that we looked at, the wild bergamot, is the larval host plant for the hermit sphinx moth. And the reason it's called the sphinx moth is because the caterpillar actually kind of looks like the sphinx with a little bit of a horn at the top of the caterpillar. So really cool moths. You know, it's so cool when you see them on your plants and interacting with them.
And of course, I have to, point out the obvious in this map. What is up with, that's West Virginia, right?
Oh yeah, why is it not in there?
Boy, this spotted bee balm is not a fan of West Virginia. If anybody from West Virginia is watching, I'm sorry.
Yeah, very selective range here on this particular Monarda. But a lot of Texas. If you're from Texas or
It
even
loves
like
you.
Louisiana, loves you. Like this is your plant.
It's kind of a fan of us in Illinois and Wisconsin too,
Yeah, which is odd because like
but
just
not West
us.
Virginia. It's
No,
having no part of you.
no.
And another species of Monarda, again, all of these you're gonna, definitely smell the mint, the mint fragrance from their foliage, and it is Bradbury's Monarda. Now, I have to be perfectly honest. This is one species of Monarda that I have not personally grown, so I don't have any personal knowledge of this, but I've heard wonderful things about it. That it's just a great bloomer, and again, less prone to powdery mildew, and loved by the pollinators. And just, the flowers, I mean, you can just see here, they're very unique. They're more two-toned. Again, just a very stunning, unique, almost like fuzzy little mop head type plant. Monarda bradburiana, and it grows 2 feet tall. And if any of you out there have grown this species, we'd love to hear something about that, because I don't think you've experienced this species yet, have you, Lexi?
No, I haven't either. And actually, I think it might not be native to our area, but we're going to have to look at that. Native to parts of the Midwest. So I think it's a very specific native range for this one. But didn't our landscaper friend also say that this one was less prone to the powdery mildew as well?
Yes, yes. And again, it's shorter, and uh, pulled apart sun, medium soil, blooms June, July, as all the Monardas are. It's a favorite of pollinators and hummingbirds. As we said, it's a shorter Monarda. Yeah, this has a little bit of a smaller hardiness zones, 5 to 8. A lot of these plants will look at 3 to 9, 3 to 10. This is hardy zones 5 to 8. And let's see about that native range.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's
that's a pretty small, well, look at that. I mean, here we are again. It is native to here, Lexi, because we're in the Chicago area. And, it's got this big area like in, Missouri and downstate, and what is that, Arkansas, and then it's present in some of the state, but then boom, native in the Chicago area. So maybe that's the warmth of the lake. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but
yeah,
it's
very
kind of,
small native range. It's really interesting.
it really is.
All right, so my background is red bee balm, and this one I think is actually this one is not native to our area. It's been introduced and it's present, but it's not actually native. The purple lavender one, the wild bergamot, is the one that's native to our area. But we wanted to include this because it is native for a lot of the eastern US, and it's just a gorgeous plant. It looks like a firecracker or firework, and how perfect for 4th of July. This is your plant.
Really.
Oh, it's just stunning. This grows 3 to 5 feet tall, so it's one of the tallest Monardas. Full to part sun, medium to moist soil. I think it prefers it slightly moister. It's going to bloom June, July, and August. And again, that shape of that flower is just a huge favorite of the pollinators and the hummingbirds. Anything with a long tongue loves getting into those little tubes and getting the nectar out. Oh, it looks like I have a misspelling here on the shorter Monarda because this is not shorter. But it is hardiness zones 4 to 7, and again, native to parts of the eastern US. So see, that is just a very limited native range too, just like the Bradbury Monarda.
So, Lexi, it looks like over our area, it's almost that turquoise color. What does that turquoise color mean again? Do you remember in the Bonap maps?
That means that it's been introduced. So the darker green is present, but the light green is native to the county. So it looks like it's maybe moved around a little bit, and it's present in all of these areas with the darker green, but the true native areas are the bright green or the yellow where it's not found anymore.
I see. Okay.
And the red bee balm is a larval host plant for several different types of moths. The gray marble moth, the hermit sphinx moth, again, this is a favorite species for the sphinx moth. And then this beautiful moth, the orange mint moth, and it's even named the mint moth because it likes the mint, and they must like the smell of the mint.
And again, we can't stress enough, and that's a, you know, a talk for another day. But remember, these moths, we don't think too much about them out there at night, but they truly are, you know, one of the backbones of our ecosystem and the, you know, base of our food chain. So just important to, excuse me, help them out. Here's obedient plant, which really, you know, that isn't necessarily a good name for it. It doesn't necessarily, excuse me, obey that well in the garden. It kind of likes to take over a little bit. It is kind of considered to be kind of a robust spreading plant that we talked about when we talked about some of our native ground covers to help cover large spaces of plants so that the weeds don't. So you can cover it, you know, relatively quickly with some, you know, especially if you have larger areas of, you know, you may not want this in a little tiny garden because it may be too aggressive, but if you have a large yard, and you want to cover space as quickly as possible to keep those weeds out, this is a beautiful, amazing species of plant. It is just gorgeous. And why does it get the name, though, obedient plant? What is it? If you touch it, it moves? What is it?
If you touch it, like, so the stalk will kind of just like push over and it'll just stay that way for a little while and then it'll just go right back up. So yeah, it obeys your, like, you know, directing the stalks.
When this is blooming, it is truly stunning. And then the seed heads, after it's done blooming, will shake in the wind, and it sounds like a rattlesnake. Not that that's like, you know, but but it is cool. Okay, so obedient plant. Okay, let me try this. Stagia virginiana,
I think
something
you
like
did
that.
great. Yep.
It grows 2 to 4 feet tall, medium to moist soil. It likes full to part sun, blooms August and September. It does spread by rhizomes. Like I said, this wouldn't be the plant for you if you have, you know, if you live on a little, you know, eighth of an acre yard or something, you know, you just, unless you keep it contained. Like I don't have a tremendously large property, but I have a ton of this growing along the side of my house. Again, it's contained by sidewalks, driveways, and a brick wall. So this is not spreading anywhere because it spreads by rhizomes. You know, if it were spreading by seeds, it could spread to the other side of the driveway, but it spreads by rhizomes. So I have it contained and it fills that area wonderfully. It's a mint right along, all along my house. Guess what? Rodents don't like hanging around by that mint, and I get beautiful blooming, and it's hemmed in so it's not going to, you know, robustly spread. But great plant if you want to cover some ground with something beautiful and you know, keep some of those rodents at bay. So it is hardy in zones 3 to 9, native to the eastern and central US. Let's look at the range of this. So yeah, there we go. So yes, and loved, and definitely loved by the pollinators. So you're getting beauty in pollinators and hopefully deterring rodents and bunnies.
Yeah, such an elegant plant. I just love obedient plant.
I do too.
Now, these two next mints that we're going to cover are huge pollinator magnets too. Slender mountain mint, they kind of look a little bit similar, but slender mountain mint is shorter than the next mountain mint that we're going to cover. So this one only gets to 2 feet tall. And if you can imagine a 2 feet tall almost like little bush of all these little white flowers, and the smell is just amazing. And you'll see all these tiny little pollinators on those flowers, and then also some bigger bumblebees too, and butterflies. But this is the hot spot. So this one likes full to part sun. It's also called slender mountain mint because the leaves are very slender. You can see kind of in this picture here. And it likes medium wet to medium dry soil. So this one is not picky. And it blooms for an extraordinary long time. So June, July, August through September. Again, loved by pollinators and birds. The birds like the seeds on this, or what are the birds going for?
It would be the seeds, I believe. Yes.
Okay.
Very
And
much.
this one is hardiness zones 4 to 9. Again, it's the shorter species of the mountain mint, and it's native to the Midwest, Eastern, and Central U.S. So imagine some clumps of this by one of your doors or around the perimeter of your house to keep away the rodents. So here you can see this map, a nice big swath of that brighter green where it's going to be native to, and it's found almost in half of the country too in that darker green.
And then we have the taller mountain mint. I'm trying to think of what I do have. I think I have this one, and I can attest to the fact that the pollinators just truly, truly love this one. And it grows, and again, it's a pretty robust plant. I just want to, say that it does have a tendency to spread. It's not like crazy or anything, but it does spread. So it will, if you want to, cover some space with this would be a good one to, plant in a larger area because it will. It's not a timid plant, I should say. It's not an invasive plant, but it's not, it's definitely pretty robust. Okay, it grows to 3 feet tall, full to part sun, medium to wet soil. Blooms June, July, August, and September. Very long bloom season. I can certainly attest to that. Again, the pollinators love it. Hardy in zones 3 to 7 and native to the eastern U.S. and the Midwest. And I'm just kind of thinking of this now because I've grown 2 species of mountain mint. I grow 2 species of Monarda. I grow obedient plant, and I grow I think I'm trying to remember the other 2. I know for one for sure, species. I have never, I mean, I know that a hungry rabbit can eat almost anything. I have never had a rabbit eat any of these species in my yard. I've had them eat other species, but I've never had them eat any of these species now that I'm thinking about it, of the ones that I've grown.
Yeah,
And
I have
here's
big fat rabbits in my yard. They've never eaten the bergamot ever. They don't go for it.
Here's the native range, and again, native to the eastern U.S. and the Midwest.
Okay, I think this is our last plant for this evening. It went so quickly.
It sure did.
Lavender hyssop.
And this is another one I've grown, and they have never ever touched this.
And it's just an incredible plant. This one is so super easy to grow from seed to, I think I grew maybe 80 of these over the winter and planted them this spring. And they're just taking off. I mean, they were already flowering just in the first year, which I think that's another great thing about these plants is, if you plant them, they can flower the first year and start to fill in like really quickly. So this one grows to 3 feet tall. I think it can get even a little bit taller, maybe up to 4 feet tall if it's in a place that it's super happy.
I would agree.
Full to part sun, medium soil. I don't think this is a picky plant at all. It blooms June, July, August through September. Again, this is so long blooming, like anything that starts in the late spring and then is going all the way to the fall. So imagine this combination, and as you can see in this picture, probably some goldenrod in the background, plus this gorgeous purple of the lavender hyssop. And the smell of this is just phenomenal. If you rub the leaves, it smells like anise. Another name for this is anise hyssop. And then the flowers themselves smell really good too. It's again loved by pollinators and hummingbirds, and the seeds are loved by birds. So once it dries back in the fall, then you've got these amazing seed heads, and that's going to continue feeding them through the winter. It is hardy in zones 3 to 6, and this is native to parts of the upper Midwest. This one I found very surprising that it's also got a little bit of a limited range on our bonnet map.
Well, as I'm just looking at this, I'm saying, wow, hardy in zones 3 to 6. So we're actually in zone 6A, right? And so really any further south of us, I mean, we're at the warmest end of its range. So this really likes it colder. It's not a heat tolerant plant. And I wanted to mention that, these leaves can be good like in a tea. You can like put a few of these leaves in your tea. But to me, this plant, I would say this is the plant that got me into native plants, because I bought this plant somewhere just because I liked to garden for pollinators. And as it grew, and as I noticed that all of the pollinators were on this plant, that they just loved this plant. It was full of bees, it was full of butterflies, the hummingbirds came to it. And then when it was done, and it blooms such a long time, and then when it was done blooming, it was loaded with goldfinch. And I thought, wow, what a cool plant. This is a plant that really services our ecosystem. And then I found out that it's native, and that's why our native species love it so much. So that's what clued me in and showed me the difference. It was with this plant. This plant was like my first experience with native plants. I just love it. Let's look at oh my goodness, yeah.
See
So
what a
it's not,
tiny range.
wow. That's shocking, and it really isn't even showing it here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this map, this is a 2013 Bon-App map, and they're updating things, so we'll get a new version. But yeah, I was kind of surprised that it's got such a small range. And a lot of the plants that we looked at today, a couple of them, have these smaller ranges, but then some have these huge swaths of being native too. So really just got to check and make sure it's right for your area.
Wow,
But
that
I'm
is a
still growing.
shocker. You know what? Because it's such a hardy plant. I mean, it's so hardy that it surprises me that it's got such a small hardiness range, because it seems pretty easy to grow. You know what I mean? So it didn't seem like it was that, but it seems like it's pretty fussy about its temperatures, right?
Yeah, and who knows, as climate change continues, our zones are going to change a little bit, so these maps could shift, and that's why it's so important to plant native, because it helps prevent more climate change and supports our pollinators and birds and everything else, our food chain.
And
Yeah,
I'm kind of sad because I think it's only good to zone 6. And if we get warmer here, we might not be able to grow hyssop anymore.
yeah. Well, hope it doesn't happen.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, that is our presentation on beautiful native plants that are not liked by rabbits, and will help repel rabbits and rodents from your property and from your home. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy your garden.